This little fish pond in my courtyard's now 5 years old. It has cheap homemade filters and I barely ever do any maintenance on it. Even so, the water is always clear and the fish are happy. Well, that is when they aren't getting picked off by birds. So recently I was doing a little bit of pond maintenance and I thought I'd take you with me and explain how the pond is set up, how I maintain it, and hopefully it'll help you with your pond. If you don't already know me, my name is Kev, and the aim of my channel is to help people build and maintain a pond without spending a fortune. If that sounds like something that interests you, you might like to subscribe and visit my website Ozponds.com. This pond has a liner. The liner is covered in rock and pebble, and there's plants. The marginal plants are planted directly into the pebble. The water lilies are in lily baskets. Water lilies need good clayey, nutrient-rich substrate if you want to have flowers each year. There is one pump that sits in a DIY skimmer that I made with an old bucket. The pump sits inside this bucket and the rocks are positioned so that there is a narrow, shallow opening that the water needs to pass through to reach the pump. I also have a little flap of liner wedged into the opening to optimise the pull of water through this gap. Inside the bucket is a couple of coarse filter sponges. These trap debris and prevent the pump from getting clogged. These can be rinsed off and reused. I hadn't rinsed this one off in over 6 months. So this very simple DIY skimmer helps reduce the maintenance on the pump by preventing it from getting clogged. It also keeps the surface of the water free of debris, which improves visibility and makes the water look clearer. I think any decent sized pond should have some kind of skimming action. On my larger ponds I use intake bays to create the skimming motion and keep the surface of the pond clear of debris. Again, it just creates that nice clean clear surface that allows you to see right into the pond. And again, it's just another easy DIY filter. It doesn't just collect leaf material, any surface proteins will also get pulled into the skimmer or intake bay. From the skimmer, the water is pumped to a bog filter that I made in a cheap repurposed olive drum. The dirt from the pond excavation was used to bury the barrel. After the water passes through the barrel bog filter, it's returned to the pond via a little stream. So there's a few things going on here that help the pond and reduce maintenance. The water is pumped from the skimmer into the base of the bog filter. The filter is filled with rock and pebble, larger rock with more gaps at the base and smaller rock as we move up through the filter. The rock and pebble inside the filter grow bacteria that process nutrients and break down waste products, making them safe for the fish. By processing these nutrients, they also reduce the amount of food available for algae, and that helps keep the pond water looking super clear and healthy. The larger rock at the base of the filter has gaps, and that allows small fine sediment that passes through the sponges in the skimmer to accumulate here. I also add a breather pipe to prevent the filter from siphoning back to the pond if the pump shuts off. And there's a clean out point so I can easily discharge those accumulated fine solids I just mentioned. It's a very simple design and system. The water is pushed through the rock and the pebble, and once it overflows back to the pond, it's pretty bloody clean. If you do want to learn more about bog filters and how to size them for your pond and the pump flow needed, I created a free calculator at Ozponds.com to help you. Having the water return to the pond via the stream and small waterfall helps to re-oxygenate the water before it returns to the pond. The fish and the bacteria both consume oxygen, and therefore the entire ecosystem performs better with plenty of oxygen available. You'll also notice I have an aerator pumping in air to agitate the water inside the pond. Even the rock and the pebble inside the pond are part of the filtration, as they'll also grow beneficial bacteria. So for the most part, the pond with the filters set up as they are, the pond looks after itself. I also don't feed the fish. The pond is set up in an ecosystem. There's all kinds of life that call the pond home. Small organisms that help break down organic materials like leaves and dead stuff, even poo, and then the other organisms that eat algae, and some that are even algae. And the fish are consuming them all. The rock, pebble and plants help create crevices and areas where the fish can't get to. so not all this life is constantly being wiped out. But over time, a layer of fine sediment, broken down plant material, fish waste, and beneficial algae accumulates. I call this mulm. This stuff is teeming with microscopic life, and it's incredibly beneficial to the pond and its inhabitants. In the past, I would grab my pond vac and vacuum up the sediment in my ponds whenever it bothered me. But over the years, I've seen how beneficial all the different life forms in the pond are, and I don't want to destroy their home. Now I tend to very rarely use the pond vacuum, and I certainly never drain and pressure wash my ponds, and I've even gone so hippie that I've set up tubs where I dump the mulm I've netted so the tadpoles, dragonfly larvae, and other wonderful creatures that were living in the pond can see out their life cycles. The mulm's so beneficial, the water stays clear even without a filter or any agitation. I do keep these tubs in the shade though, so they don't overheat. So now I can net the pond whenever I like without feeling too guilty about destroying too much life. After I've stirred it all up, I still need to flush the bog and clean the skimmer sponge. Stirring up the pond with the pumps running helps lots of sediment get pulled into the skimmer, and the fine stuff ends up in the bog filter. Sometimes I get asked if you lose all the beneficial bacteria when you flush the bog filter. You don't. These bacteria grow onto the rock and the pebble and therefore stay on it when the filter's flushed. Even if some are lost, the pond bacteria is completely intact. So having my cheap filtration system and willingness to let nature do its thing, I don't need to do much maintenance at all. And I know this style of pond keeping isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. At the end of the day, you've got to do what makes you happy. If you do want to see how this pond was constructed, I'll put a link in the description, as well as links to how the filters were all built. I hope this video and the resources on ozponds.com are helpful. If you thought so, feel free to tickle the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching. See ya.